It is 7:13 in the morning. You have not brushed your teeth yet. The coffee is not even made, but somehow your thumb has already opened your investing app. Your brokerage account is red. Your 401k is lower than the last time you checked. And right underneath it, there is a headline. Markets sell off on recession fears. You scroll a little more. Reddit is arguing. Someone in the group chat says, I moved to cash. I am not losing anymore. And in that moment, selling does not feel like panic. It feels like the responsible thing to do. It feels like protecting your future. You do not think, I am panicking. You think, I am managing risk. The problem is not that you do not know the long-term investing rule. The problem is that the rule was written for a calm brain. And right now, your body is hearing a fire alarm. Your mind rarely labels that sell button as panic. It labels it as responsibility. I call this the responsible panic trap. It is when fear walks into the room dressed like a serious risk manager, holding a spreadsheet and saying, maybe we should sell before this gets worse. When the market is green, it is easy to say, I am a long-term investor. You know stocks go down sometimes. You know your 401k should not be checked like a checking account. But when the market actually falls, your brain does not ask, what is a 20-year plan? It asks, how do I make this feeling stop right now? That is why selling in fear usually does not feel like a mistake. It feels like protecting capital. It feels like stepping aside for a while. But sometimes you are not selling because the analysis is done. You are selling because your body wants the pain to stop. Panic rarely shows up looking like panic. It shows up wearing a suit called responsibility. One story that stuck with me came from a newer investor. Not options, not margin, not some complicated strategy. Just a regular person who saved up money from a side gig, put it into the market, and saw their account turn red for the first time. At first they thought they were ready. They had heard the long-term advice. They knew markets go down. But when that money was no longer an example in a finance video, when it was money they had earned working extra hours, everything felt different. The red number stopped looking like a percentage. It started feeling like a personal question. What if I lose this? So they sold. Not because they thought they were a great trader. They sold because, in that moment, holding felt more painful than selling. And right after they sold, maybe they felt relief. At least they were not just sitting there watching it fall. But a few days later, the market bounced. The investments they had just sold started turning green again. Now they had to sit on the sidelines, watching their own plan continue without them. A lot of investors are not just afraid of losing money. They are afraid of discovering that, at the exact moment they needed to stay calm, they could not trust themselves. The most painful part may not even be the loss. It is the question that comes after. If the market drops again, am I going to do the exact same thing? The market did not just take a piece of their money. It took a piece of their confidence that they were a rational person. And this is where the story stops being only about finance and starts being about biology. When your account is down 8%, the screen is only showing a number. But your body may read it as danger. Your heart beats faster. Your stomach gets heavier. A temporary loss on a screen suddenly feels urgent. The researchers Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky helped popularize a very important idea. People tend to feel losses more strongly than similar-sized gains. Put simply, losing $100 usually feels more painful than gaining $100 feels good. So when your investment account drops, your brain does not just say, this is normal volatility. It says, something that belongs to me is being taken away. And for many Americans, an investment account is not just an investment account. It may be a 401k, it may be a Roth IRA, it may be a down payment, college money for a child, or the hope that one day you will not be living so close to the next paycheck. So when that number turns red, the thing being threatened is not just money. It is safety. It is the future. It is the responsible version of yourself you are trying to build. That is why just stay calm sounds right, but usually is not enough. You cannot always reason with your nervous system using an investing quote. In that moment, your brain is not asking the best question. It is asking the fastest one. What do I do to make this feeling stop? And when the question shrinks that much, the sell button starts to look like an exit. Your portfolio shows a percentage. Your body hears an alarm, and loss is only the first layer. The second layer is even more dangerous. After the alarm goes off, we often do the thing that seems most responsible. We check again. One of the strangest traps of modern investing is that it can make anxiety look like effort. You sit in your car before walking into the office and tell yourself, "I will just check for 1 second." You open the brokerage app. The account is still red. You lock your phone, walk into work, but the number is still in your head, like a browser tab you never closed. By lunch, you check again. Not because your investment plan changed in 4 hours, but because your body still does not feel settled. A CNBC headline pops up. YouTube recommends a market crash video. Someone on Reddit says they moved everything to cash. Those little pieces of information start building a very convincing story. Maybe I should do something too. This is the account checking loop. You see red, so you worry, you check to feel better. But the next check gives you another reason to worry. It does not close the wound. It reopens it with a cleaner interface. The app does not just show you the market, it gives your fear a refresh button. When you check too often, you start living inside very short slices of the market. 1 red day feels like a signal. 3 red days feel like a trend. 1 red week starts to feel like the future. Suddenly, your 20-year plan is being interrogated by a bad week. And once you are scared, you are no longer looking for neutral information. You are looking for information that makes the fear feel reasonable. A bad headline, a pessimistic comment, a thumbnail with a red chart and the word warning. None of those things forces you to sell by itself. But together, they can make selling look like the mature thing to do. And here is the dangerous part. Selling is only one decision. After you sell, you create a second decision that is even harder. When do you get back in? If the market recovers, you are now standing outside, waiting for a signal that feels safe enough. And that signal often becomes clear only after the biggest opportunity has already passed. So this is not just one anxious person staring at a phone. When millions of investors check, worry, and step away at the wrong time, individual fear can create a real gap between the returns of the market and the returns investors actually receive. Different reports measure this gap in different ways, but they point to the same uncomfortable pattern. Investors do not always earn the returns of the investments they own. Morningstar calls this mind the gap. It is the gap between the return of a fund and the return investors actually receive after they buy, sell, withdraw, return, and change their minds along the way. For the 10 years ending in 2024, Morningstar found that American fund investors earned about 7% per year. The funds they owned returned about 8.2% per year. That gap sounds small, but over many years, it added up to roughly 15% of total returns missed. A small number on paper, a much deeper cut over time. Dalbar has tracked similar behavior gaps for years too. The exact numbers vary by method, but the pattern is the same. What investors earn often depends less on what they own, and more on whether fear pushes them in and out at the wrong time. This is where the data becomes very human. After you sell, you may think you escaped the danger, but really, you created a new test. When do you go back in? If the market recovers quickly, the safer entry point gets blurrier the longer you wait. That is why the behavioral gap is not just a finance term. It is the bill for decisions made while the body is afraid. Panic selling does not end the decision. It creates a second decision under more regret. And that is why the advice "do not panic" often fails right when you need it most. The most common advice sounds clean. Do not panic. Think long term. Just hold. The problem is that these lines are usually spoken by a calm brain and delivered to a brain standing in a burning room. You are lying in bed at 11:28 at night. You still have work tomorrow. Your emergency fund is thin. You open the app, and the account is red again. In that moment, just think long-term does not feel like a plan. It feels like a motivational poster in a smoke-filled room. This is why correct advice at the wrong moment can still be useless. You are not missing a quote. You are missing a system that protects the plan when your body no longer wants to listen to the plan. Knowledge helps you write down what you should do. Stress decides whether you can actually follow it. Confidence can make the trap sharper. You think, I understand the market. But because of that, it becomes easier to rename an emotional reaction as analysis. You do not say, I am scared. You say, I am reducing risk. If your plan only works when you are calm, it is not really a plan. It is a wish with nice formatting. The answer is not to become a person who never feels fear. The answer is to stop letting the scared version of you run your long-term money. So now we have to move from advice to architecture. A real plan has to be built before the panic, not during the panic. So what does that system look like? It is not just be stronger. A better system starts with a much more honest sentence. You are going to be scared. And if you know you are going to be scared, do not let the scared version of you write the rules. The first step is to write the rules before the red day. I call this the red day rule. Before the market drops, open a note on your phone or a Google Doc. Write down what you are investing for. Write down your time horizon. Write down what you will do if the account drops 10%. Then write what you will do if it drops 20%. Write down the only reason you are allowed to sell, and write down who you have to talk to before you do. It sounds simple, but it takes the pen out of the hand of the version of you that is breathing fast. Next, reduce how often fear gets invited into the room. That is, the refresh button diet. Move the brokerage app off your home screen. Turn off price alerts if you are not a trader. Pick a fixed schedule for checking. Do not check your portfolio right after waking up, right before bed, or right after a scary headline. You do not control the market better by looking at it more. Sometimes you just give fear more screen time. Then let the calm version of you work automatically. With a 401k, an IRA, or a recurring investment account, automation does not watch CNBC at 11 at night. It does not doom scroll Reddit. It does not change the plan because of one thumbnail that says warning. If every month you ask, should I invest this month? You are turning a long-term plan into an emotional vote. Then put a lock in front of the sell button. This is the 24-hour sell delay for major decisions. It does not ban you from selling. It only stops fear from getting same-day delivery. If you want to sell because the market is red, wait 24 hours. Write one sentence. Did my plan actually change, or do I just want this feeling to stop? Then reread your red day rule. At least now the calm part of you has a seat back at the table. Finally, stop making long-term money do the job of emergency money. Sometimes you do not panic because you invested wrong. You panic because you forced a long-term portfolio to act like an emergency fund. If the money might be needed for rent, a car repair, a medical bill, or a down payment in the next few months, it should not have to survive a long-term storm. Like retirement money that has 30 years to recover. If you have panic sold before, that does not mean you are stupid or weak. It may mean you were staring at retirement money, house money, or your family's sense of safety on a red screen. That reaction is human, but because it is human, you should not let it drive your investing system by itself. The goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to design a system that knows you will be scared and protects you anyway. The question is no longer, how do I become less emotional? The real question is, who gets to make the decision when my emotions are at their highest? If you only keep one thing from this video, keep this. You do not need to become a person who never feels fear. You need a system that does not hand fear the keys. Do not let the panicked version of you become the CFO of your future. An investing plan is not proven when the market is green. It is proven on the day you want to abandon it most. If one red week can make you leave the plan, was it really a plan, or just confidence borrowed from a green market? If this video helped you realize that you need a system to protect you when you are scared, the next video goes into a quieter trap. It does not show up as a red screen. It shows up as a very comforting feeling. I am contributing to my 401k, so I am probably fine. The next video is about the retirement mistake that does not look like a mistake. Someone contributing 3% to a 401k, feeling responsible, and never asking whether that number is actually enough. Today, we talked about what happens when the market gets too loud. Next, we are talking about what happens when your money gets too quiet. Final question. Are you protected by a real plan, or just comforted by the feeling that you started?